everyone. How are we doing tonight?
Good. Come on, that crowd.
Yeah, so I'll be sharing my testimony tonight. So let's begin. So I was raised in a Christian household. I was raised in the church. Growing up, I was very active in the church. I attended church every Sunday, youth on Wednesdays. I served in the worship team, kids ministry, and I also ran like a Christian club at my high school. And I remember my friends, like they all knew I was Christian. And so growing up, I always thought of myself as a very mature Christian who was very close with God. But looking back, I don't think I knew God at all. I never spent any devotional time. I never prayed to Him. I really just did not care about Him at all. And outside of like church time, I didn't think about Him at all. And to give you a sense of who I was growing up, the mic, turn it off.
Talk louder.
Okay, so growing up, I was like a very, very socially anxious guy. I cared a lot about what people thought of me. A lot of people at my school, they knew me as like the quiet kid or like the kid who didn't really speak or the shy kid. And I just cared a lot about people's opinions of me. And I was like a big, big people pleaser. Like whatever I could do to like get people to like me or to get people to like respect me or anything, I would try to do because that's what I lived for. And growing up, I was also very lustful. I was addicted to porn. I got addicted from around like grade 5 until the end of grade 12. And I didn't realize it at the time, but it was like completely messing up my mind and my thoughts. Growing up, I was also, specifically in high school, I didn't really respect my parents. I would get annoyed by them very easily. Growing up, I was also very self-centered. All my thoughts kind of revolved around myself. Like, how can I gain friends? How can I look cool? Or how can, like, it was all about me. And so, in high school specifically, I always felt like very empty. And I felt like a lot of like sad thoughts and depressing thoughts. But yeah, so this is who I like kind of was growing up. And then university came around and I was very excited for university. I remember when I first got to university, I completely like stopped going to church and I didn't attend any fellowship as well. And I think this is because I didn't truly know Him back then, so I wasn't prioritizing Him. And when I came to university, I was very excited because no one really knew me here, so I could present myself as someone new. So I kind of put on this very like social and confident persona that wasn't really me. And when I first got here, I like met a lot of people at like meet and greets, and they would see this persona I was putting up, and they would like ask me to hang out and stuff, and I would always say no because I was too anxious to hang out with people. And I was scared that they would see past this persona and see the guy who's like actually insecure, socially anxious, boring. So yeah, I was really afraid of this. And then eventually I got invited out to a party. And I had never been to a party before, so I figured like, why not experience this? And there was alcohol there and I had never drank before, but I decided to drink that day. And I got very, very drunk. And I remember it felt really good because when you grow up your whole life with like severe social anxiety, all you want is for your mind to stop, for like those anxious thoughts to stop. And that's exactly what the alcohol did for me, right? My mind completely shut off and I was able to talk to whoever I wanted to. I was able to socialize. And so as you can imagine, I got very attached to this feeling. And I started attending like more parties in first year. And it got to a point where I became very dependent on it for like my happiness. And like I would always just be looking forward to like parties or like drinking. And I became so dependent that like I remember on weekends when like I would be in my room, staying at home, I remember like I would just feel like so empty and like so like without purpose. I would get like suicidal thoughts as well. And it was just like really bad. Like I was so dependent on the alcohol and the parties in order to like have something to look forward to. Um, and this was like all the first year. I was still struggling with like all the things from my past. Like I was still very socially anxious. I remember I always like thought in first year like, okay, I met all these people, but like, wow, none of these people really know me. Like, did I make any real friends? Because I was too like socially anxious to hang out with anyone outside of a party setting because there was nothing to like numb my mind or numb my brain. And then I was still like a big people pleaser. I was constantly trying to do anything in order to get people to like me. I was still having lustful thoughts. I was struggling with pride as well. It was just really bad. And so that was like all of my first year. And start of second year, I knew some people in CCF, so I got invited out a few times, and eventually I came out. And when I came to CCF, I felt so loved for and cared for, particularly by like a couple people. I felt like a ton of love and care from them, and I had never felt this at a club before. Like normally when I go to a school club, I feel pretty isolated and alone, but at CCF it was different. Like I felt like the love there and cared. So I kept coming out to CCF, and as I kept coming out, I started to like really question my faith. Like, why am I a Christian? Is it just because I grew up Christian, I was raised Christian, or like why am I deciding to be a Christian? So I started kind of exploring into like other religions as well, and really diving into like the evidence. And I kind of concluded that like Christianity to me made the most sense. So I started to take my faith more seriously, and I started to like get plugged into a church, attend CCF more. And ever since then, God has just been constantly working in my life. So a few things like changed pretty quick, which was like, one, God started to make me feel like a lot of conviction over like parties. Because for me personally, like it only ever led to like bad or evil things. And so that stopped pretty quick, which was also a bit hard because at the time, like my whole social circle was like party people, so a lot of those friendships like instantly dropped. But what really helped was like the love I felt at CCF and like the love I felt from God. And then another thing, I used to like curse a lot in first year, but I felt conviction over that, and that stopped pretty fast as well. And like other things, they just like slowly over time, God has just been working in me. Like for example, the people pleasing. Yeah, I find that I no longer like idolize people as much because God has just like shown me how much he loves me and how he's like so sovereign, and it's just helped me to not care as much. And that's something that's like constantly God's been working in me. Like I still people please at times, but he's just like constantly working in me. The lustful thoughts have gone down a lot. He's shown me how evil it is, and he's shown me like how much better of a life he desires for me. And I think for me, the biggest part was like the anxiety just decreased so much. Like, yeah, he's just like given me a lot of peace as I've been following him. There's a verse in Romans 8:28 that says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good." And there's just so much peace in that because I know that he's in control, and I know that even if bad things happen, he's going to turn it for good. And so I find so much peace in that. And like whenever bad things happen, I'm like not as worried anymore. But yeah, he's given me so much peace, and he's so good. And yeah, and a lot of these sins like I still struggle with. Like I definitely still get anxious. I definitely still have like self-centered thoughts, still struggle with pride. But man, every time I look back in my past, I'm like, wow, he's just like constantly working. Like I think about the heart I used to have, the desires I used to have, and it's like he's just changing me from the inside out. And it's so good. And yeah, I think right now he's just I'm just constantly trying to understand more like just how much love he has for me and how broken I am and how much mercy he has towards me and how much grace he has towards me. And every day as I keep learning more about this, like I just fall in love with him more and just know more about his goodness. And yeah, that's basically my testimony. Thank you guys for listening. If you guys have any questions or anything or want to come up to talk to me after, I would love to talk. But yeah, I'll close on a word of prayer. Dear God, I thank you for tonight, for Presence Night. I thank you for everyone who could make it out tonight, Lord. I thank you for Stanley's message. I thank you for the time we could take to just praise you, Lord, and praise you for all the good that you've done in our lives and how you love us and care for us, Lord, despite everything we do, despite our sin, Lord. You still forgive us and constantly want to be with us, Lord. And Lord, would we focus more on you, Lord, and spend more time with you and love you more, Lord. I pray that you watch over the rest of this night, and in Jesus' name I pray, amen.